Imagine you're a marine biologist studying strange sonar echoes near an unmapped trench. The ocean feels off, quiet in a way that suggests something massive is waiting below. Then the dreams start. Endless stone cities, voices calling your name in a language you've never learned but somehow understand. You begin to change. You can hold your breath longer. Salt water no longer stings. Your skin adapts. Your senses sharpen. You dig into your family history. A missing great-grandmother. A town called Innsmouth. A bloodline erased from record. You rush to the lab to run a DNA record. You weren't just human. You were a deep one. Now you're waking up. Those memories aren't dreams, the ruins aren't ruins, and the thing calling to you from the deep, it isn't separate from you, because you're not being summoned. You're becoming Cthulhu. Let me try to explain what that might feel like. Who is Cthulhu? First, let's talk about where Cthulhu comes from. Cthulhu is what we call a great old one. Think of him as an ancient god, but not like the gods in most religions. This god doesn't care about humans at all. He's so powerful and alien that just seeing him drives people insane. He didn't come from Earth. Cthulhu was born on a planet called Thor. It's in something called the 23rd Nebula. Cthulhu comes from somewhere so far away that our minds can't even grasp the distance. Millions of years ago, he traveled to Earth. He brought his children with him. They're called Starspawn. They look like smaller versions of Cthulhu. Together, they build a city called Relaya in the Pacific Ocean. Your new body. Let's talk about what you would look like as Cthulhu. But first, I need to warn you. Cthulhu's true form is so alien that humans who see it go insane immediately. Their minds simply can't process what they're seeing. You would be enormous, not just tall like a building, mountainous. Some descriptions say you could be several hundred kilometers in size. If you stood up from the ocean floor, you would tower over entire countries. Your face would be the most disturbing part. Instead of human features, you'd have a mass of writhing tentacles. Like an octopus, but much more horrifying. 4 eyes would peer out from this tentacled mass. They would glow with an intelligence that's too vast for human minds to comprehend. Your body would be scaly and rubbery. It wouldn't feel solid like human flesh, more like something between liquid and solid. You could change your shape if you wanted to. Your body could explode into a green cloud and then reform instantly. On your back you'd have wings, but don't think of bird wings. These would be more like the wings of a dragon or bat. They would be narrow and leathery. With them, you could fly through space itself. Your hands would end in massive claws. Your feet would be the same. These claws could tear through mountains like paper. But here's the strangest part. Your body wouldn't really be matter as humans understand it. You'd be made of something that exists between dimensions. That's why you could change shape and reform after being destroyed. Your mind as Cthulhu. But before that, let's talk about today's sponsor. Abyss Echo: The Forbidden Rite. It's a cosmic horror board game set in the Lovecraftian universe. You play as an investigator in 1920s Miskatonic University and make decisions to unfold the underlying madness. Every choice you make is permanent and affects your sanity score. Bad decisions or dice rolls, your sanity drops. Hit 0, game over, and madness consumes you. The box has 100 plus components, 600 plus pages of Cthulhu content, with 100 plus illustrations, sealed letters, specialty dice, notes from those who never returned, dark rituals, and much more. With 13 plus different endings, every playthrough is completely different. They're launching on Kickstarter soon, early bird link in the description. Your mind would be completely different from a human mind. Right now, you think about one thing at a time. Maybe you can multitask a little. But as Cthulhu, you would be aware of everything happening in the universe simultaneously. You would know every thought of every person on Earth. You would see every star in every galaxy. You would understand the movement of cosmic forces that humans don't even know exist. But your thoughts wouldn't be human thoughts. You wouldn't care about love or friendship or happiness. These concepts would be meaningless to you. You'd be what we call amoral. That doesn't mean evil exactly. It means you'd exist beyond human ideas of good and evil. Think of how you feel about ants in your garden. You don't hate them. You don't love them. You barely notice them at all. That's how you'd feel about all of humanity as Cthulhu. Your intelligence would be so vast that human language couldn't describe your thoughts. Your followers. Even while you sleep in R'lyeh, humans worship you. There's a worldwide cult dedicated to bringing about your return. These aren't just a few crazy people. The cult spans from Greenland to Louisiana, to Arabia, to the mountains of China. Your human followers believe that when you return, humanity will become free and wild and beyond good and evil. They don't understand that this means becoming monsters. They think it means freedom from society's rules. These cultists perform rituals to try to wake you up. They sacrifice people. They chant in languages that hurt human throats to pronounce. They study forbidden books that drive readers insane. But you also have non-human followers. The deep ones are fish-like creatures that live in the ocean. They worship you as their ultimate master. They've interbred with humans in coastal towns, creating hybrid offspring. The Migo are crab-like beings from Pluto. They serve you and your kind. They can remove human brains and keep them alive in jars. The star spawn are your children. They look like smaller versions of you. They're spread across the universe, preparing for your return. All of these followers would feel your awakening instantly. They would know the moment you rise from Relaya. Your past. As Cthulhu, you would remember Earth's ancient history. You arrived during something called the Paleozoic era. That's hundreds of millions of years ago. Humans didn't exist yet. Dinosaurs didn't exist yet. When you arrived, Earth was already occupied by beings called the Elder Things, or Old Ones. Don't confuse them with great old ones like yourself. These Elder Things were the previous rulers of Earth. You and your star spawn fought a war against them. It was a war that reshaped continents. You won some battles, they won others. Finally, you made a truce. You got the exposed lands, they got the ocean depths. After the truce, you built Relia and went to sleep. You were waiting for the stars to align properly. In cosmic terms, you were just taking a nap until conditions were right for your return. But then something happened. Relia sank beneath the ocean. You were trapped in a death-like sleep. You couldn't wake up without outside help. For millions of years you've been dreaming, but your dreams leak out into the world. They influence sensitive humans. They create cults. They cause madness and inspiration in equal measure. The 1920s incident. In the 1920s, something amazing happened. The stars aligned just enough for Aurelia to rise, briefly above the ocean surface. You woke up for the first time in eons. A group of sailors stumbled upon your city. Their ship was called the Alert. When they saw R'lyeh rising from the ocean, they knew something was wrong. The geometry of the city hurt their minds to look at. You emerged from your house in R'lyeh. The sailors described you as a walking mountain and a gelatinous green immensity. One of them, a man named Johansson, tried to ram your head with the ship. The ship passed right through you. Your head exploded into a blinding green cloud. But then you reformed instantly. The sailors thought they had hurt you. They were wrong. You barely noticed them. But then R'lyeh began to sink again. The stars moved out of alignment. You were forced back into your death-like sleep. The world was saved by cosmic timing, not human courage. This incident became the basis for many of the stories about you, but most humans don't believe it really happened. What would happen when you wake up? Now let's talk about what would happen if you became Cthulhu and fully awakened. The first few minutes. Your awakening would be felt instantly around the world. Anyone with psychic sensitivity would go insane immediately. That's about 10% of the human population. In the Pacific region, the ocean would start boiling without heat. Massive earthquakes would shake every continent. Pilots flying over the Pacific would go mad and crash their planes. Tentacled masses would burst from the soil, transforming any living thing they touch. Animals would swell up, die, and produce swarms of voracious green insects. A massive blue-black cloud would form over the Pacific. Anyone who sees it would develop acute schizophrenia. In just 15 minutes, about 10 million people would die worldwide. Within an hour, the laws of physics would start changing. Machines would stop working for no reason. Electronic devices would melt into blue-green slime. Things would crawl out of graves, chanting in alien languages. 500,000 people would suddenly be able to see a new primary color that doesn't exist in normal reality. Over 1 billion people would go completely insane. Everyone else would feel paranoia, nausea, and pain. They would smell impossible smells and see things that aren't there. Massive stones would float up from the ground, defying gravity. The International Space Station would fill with some kind of alien foam. Animals would transform into indescribable monsters. Scientific laboratories would detect that subatomic particles are behaving differently. Areas would appear where the normal laws of matter don't apply. 150 million people would be dead. Several hours later, impossible weather would appear over the oceans. Things that shouldn't exist would emerge from the depths. The sun would start showing geometric patterns that hurt to look at. On Jupiter's moon, Io, Volcanoes would erupt in a perfect pentacle shape. On Mars, the giant volcano Olympus Mons would start oozing black liquid. The Himalaya mountains would collapse upward, becoming floating mountains in the sky. 95% of all humans would be infected with some kind of cosmic sickness. 25% would develop physical abnormalities, maybe extra limbs, maybe holes where their faces used to be. 500 million humans would be effectively dead, though many would still be moving around. One day later, half the world would be covered in dark storms. Slime and twisted shapes would rain from the sky instead of water. Buildings would start changing shape on their own. Forests would mutate into alien landscapes. Some people would be transported to other dimensions by accident. Rifts would open to realities that follow different rules. Most humans would be physically and mentally transformed. Near coastal areas, half of all people would become dangerous monsters. Everyone who's still technically human would be clinically insane. Strange diseases would spread that change people's DNA while they're still alive. The moon would turn deep red. The patterns of stars in the sky would rearrange themselves. Several billion humans would be lost. 1 week later, the entire planet would be covered in roiling clouds streaked with colors that don't have names. All life would be twisted into forms that would make nightmares seem pleasant. The last human on Earth would finally succumb. A monolithic black structure miles high would spread across the planet like cancer. It would be visible from space, a permanent scar on reality itself. Your goals. As Cthulhu, your goals would be simple but terrifying. First, you would want to fully retake the Earth. This planet was yours before humans ever existed. You would see their civilization as a temporary infestation that needs to be cleaned up. Second, you would want to wake up your fellow great old ones. Many of them are still sleeping in various parts of the universe. With your awakening, you could begin the process of rousing them all. Third, you would want to restore the old ways. Before human civilization, Earth was a planet where the laws of physics were more flexible, where impossible creatures roamed freely, where reality itself was more fluid. Fourth, you would want to expand beyond Earth. The universe is vast, and there are many worlds that could be improved by your influence. But here's the thing about your goals. They wouldn't include destroying humanity out of spite. Humans would be changed, yes. Most would die, yes. But not because you hate them, because they're incompatible with the reality you want to create. Conclusion. Becoming Cthulhu would mean transcending human consciousness entirely. You will gain cosmic power while losing all human connection and understanding. You'd become immortal but fundamentally isolated, able to reshape reality but driven by desires so alien you wouldn't recognize your former self. The transformation would place you beyond human concepts of good and evil. Your actions would seem monstrous to others, but feel natural to your new cosmic awareness. There would be no return. You'd join beings so far beyond human experience that encountering them drives mortals to madness. The most terrifying aspect isn't becoming a monster, but becoming something so alien that monster no longer applies. You would leave humanity behind completely, existing according to incomprehensible cosmic rules in a reality forever changed by your presence. You would simply be Cthulhu, ancient, cosmic, incomprehensible, and the stars would finally be right. If this video entertained you, then please hit the like button. If you are interested in Lovecraftian universe, you may check this playlist of mine.